at Penji is our commitment to helping those who are making sacrifices to help others. Thank you to those making a difference in your community. We are currently accepting applications for Penji for nonprofits. If you know a nonprofit or you are one yourself, head over to penji.co and click on Penji for Good at the bottom of the website to learn how to qualify. If you are listening to this podcast and are not a nonprofit, well, welcome. Become a customer by using the custom coupon code within the podcast show notes. Proceeds of all sales goes directly back to the nonprofit from this interview. Now, back to the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unified Purpose. You guys know what we do here. We share inspiring tales of compassion, resilience, and community spirit. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's Partnership Coordinator. And today we have a really great episode. We have John McEwen from the New Jersey Theater Alliance. Hi, John. How are you?
Good. And you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. But before we get into everything, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm John McEwen, so we established that. So I'm the executive director of the New Jersey Theater Alliance, which is a service organization that works with 42 theaters, 42 professional producing theaters here in New Jersey. We also do some work with our friends over at the Bucks County Playhouse, right across the river there on the border. And so we have a great team here. We promote and strengthen and support all of our theaters. We want to make sure that people are aware of the great quality theater that we have here in New Jersey, because, you know, we're sandwiched between Philly and New York City. And we just want to make sure that people know that there's a thriving theater and arts community right here in New Jersey. So we provide so many programs and services to strengthen them as a group, but also we do a lot of work with them individually.
That's so incredible. Now, I have so many questions for you about this, but before we start, I do have a game prepared for you.
All right.
A this or that. So I'm going to ask you some questions and I just want to know which ones you prefer and get right into the podcast. Okay, so first one is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Second one, early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Next one, beach or mountains?
Definitely the beach.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Phone calls or text messages?
Phone calls.
City life or the countryside?
City life.
Music or podcast?
Music.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, you are, you know, part of the Theater Alliance. It would be horrible if you didn't like music. But John, that was so interesting. And now actually, let's talk a little bit about what you do. You told us a little bit about what the New Jersey Theater Alliance does and, you know, how you guys serve the community. But I want to know what drew you personally to work with them, be in this sort of space, and ultimately to sort of being a part of the organization.
Sure. So, well, I've always been interested in the theater since I was a little kid. My parents took me to the theater, I think I was 5 or 6, and I just fell in love with it. Did a lot of community theater when I was growing up as a kid. Our high school, unfortunately, did not have a drama department, unfortunately. So I had to seek out theater in kind of volunteer community theater organizations around my town. So that was just great. And I did think at some point, oh, it'd be nice to be an actor. So I took acting classes. I did a lot of dinner theaters, some summer stock work. But I learned early on that was probably not the path for me as much as I loved it. And I got an internship in the Berkshires and did some work there over the summer with a summer stock company. But I was on the business side of things. So I kind of did all like little managerial things to support the actors, to support the production team, and thought, wow, there's this whole other side, this whole other career that I explore. So that's how I got interested in kind of the business side of theater, and went back to school. I got my bachelor's at Montclair State University here in New Jersey. I was a theater and a communications major. I thought it would be important to have a double major just in case the theater part didn't work out. But it's so funny that I use all of those things that I learned in my undergrad. I still work with a lot of that today. And then I decided to go back and get my master's at NYU in arts management, because there was never really, when I was in my undergrad, there wasn't really a degree in arts management. Like nobody knew what that was. But now many, many colleges and universities offer it. But back then, they did not. And that was a great experience, and worked at the Ensemble Studio Theater in New York. And then I went over to Paper Mill Playhouse here in New Jersey, and I was the development director there for many, many years, and dabbled over at public television, and then came here to the Theater Alliance. So, and I was involved with the Theater Alliance here in New Jersey when I was at Paper Mill, because Paper Mill Playhouse is a member of the Theater Alliance. So we did a lot of work with the Theater Alliance then. And so I was very familiar with the organization when I interviewed and accepted the job for the director position.
That's so interesting. I love hearing stories like yours of people making their way in the arts. I think specifically, I think with things like music and acting, I feel like we have this vision of you didn't make it unless you are a famous Hollywood actor or a singer, right? But I think there's so many ways to be successful and to sort of be able to pursue this passion without necessarily having to be the Hollywood movie star, right? Or kind of like even Juilliard actor. Like, I think that's, and I love hearing stories like yours, because it really shows how you can also, I mean, you seem to be really happy with it and fulfilled. And I think it really shows that to a lot of people who probably feel like frustration when they want to get into arts and feel like, well, you know, what am I going to do with it?
Right. Well, there's so many ways to be involved in the arts. Certainly I think we're all creative people. So you can always continue, your creative outlet, whether it's acting or making music or dance, whatever it might be. But you can still make a huge contribution on the other side, because, all the theaters that we work with, they're actually all small businesses. So they need skills. They need an opportunity to network and convene with each other. They need different technical assistance, to learn different skills to strengthen them as businesses. They need services that can save them some money, that can support them so that they can do what they do best, which is produce great theater. They need to be promoted. We need to get the word out of the great work that they're doing, not only on their stages, but there's also a lot of great, innovative, exciting work that our theaters are doing in the community. They're doing a lot of work with young people, a lot of wonderful programs that they're doing in the area of healthcare, where, arts, theater and art, really there are studies that have been shown how by being involved in theater and the arts, that really does have an impact on one's health and well-being. So there's a lot of work that our theaters do in that area. So there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize your skill sets and still be involved in the theater. It may not be on stage, but it's in marketing, or it's in developing these wonderful education and community programs. Maybe you're really good at finances. So we definitely need, people who are wonderful at that, who might be wonderful at fundraising. So many different opportunities to be involved. And what's so great about the Alliance is that we provide a support system to really work with our theaters so that they have those tools that they can learn from each other. We have a very collaborative theater community here. Yes, they're competing for funding and tickets and audiences, but at the end of the day, they really know how to work together, support one another. They believe your theater success is a success for my theater. And that's why the Theater Alliance has been around for over 40 years, providing this support system to our field to strengthen them as a community. But we also do a lot of work with the theaters individually because they are slightly different and sometimes have different needs. So it's a great feeling to be of service and to really watch an exciting, thriving theater community here in New Jersey. It's been, when we started back in 1981, we only had 5 theaters, and now we have 42.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I do believe that it's because there's an organization like the Theater Alliance that a lot of artists came to make their theater home here in New Jersey because they knew there was this collaborative, congenial support system that the Theater Alliance provides.
For sure. It leads me to a very interesting question. I think when we think about locations, we also tend to assume that because a certain part of like a city is popular for something, that everyone there must be thriving, right? So I think when you think of theater in New Jersey, you immediately would probably go into like, oh, so they're probably fine because they're close to New York and New York's theater is huge. Right. I don't think it's necessarily the case. I think it's, there's so many people trying to make it that it's hard to make yourself even known, right? And actually in industries like this, where I feel like a lot of it also has to be with being at the right place at the right time and just knowing the right people. And not necessarily, obviously talent is important, but I think a lot of times it's not just that. It's also just like the networking aspect of it, which I think what you guys are doing is great because it sort of creates that unison from different theaters to sort of create that community, which is what you were talking about. But I'm wondering right now, what are some of those biggest opportunities or challenges that you see actually like on a day-to-day that New Jersey is facing in the live theater space?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think the fact that we're sandwiched between New York and Philadelphia, I think it's so much better, but I think we have to continue to remind people of the great quality theater, professional theater that we have here in New Jersey. Professional meaning that all the actors are paid, all the designers, all the musicians, all the, tech people. People are paid to produce great theater here in New Jersey. They're members of Actors Equity, which is the actors' professional union. So these are not just, people volunteering to kind of come in and put on a show. These are actual professional theater artists that are actually that are producing great theater here in the state. Some of the challenges, certainly, after the pandemic, it certainly was a challenge. The pandemic was a huge, as you can imagine, very big challenge for our theaters. Theater was one of the first industries to shut down during the pandemic and one of the last industries to reopen. So if you think about, actors live, a live performance on stage and having to concern yourself with all of the protocols as it relates to that, right? Being in person, performing on stage, and then of course, all of your audiences coming into your theater. So we had to contend with quite a bit. So I am proud to say, though, that we did not lose one theater during the pandemic. We really were able to jump in there and provide our theaters with support and resources and financial resources, as well as other funding resources to ensure that they kept their doors open. But now that they're back, it's still, a little bit of a challenge. People are not planning as far ahead and, as far in advance as they once did. Before the pandemic, I think people were like, oh, I'll go and do this in 2, 3, 4 months from now. They're now making very more last minute decisions. They're not subscriptions. A lot of our theaters have subscribers, where they purchase a series of shows for the year. Those are not quite at the level that they were before the pandemic. I think a lot of people don't want to say, oh, I'm going to just commit all my entertainment dollars to just one theater or two theaters. They're going to spread their time and their interests around a bit. So that has been a little bit of a change. I think it's getting better, but it's different now. I think people got so used to streaming, the Netflix and the, Amazon and all of the streaming services that they kind of got used to hanging out at home, right? So
It's
now,
true.
how we as theaters, how are we exciting you? Because there
To
is
come back.
nothing like a live theater experience, right? To see something live, to hear the live music. It's a different, what's so great about live theater is that one performance is not identical to the performance.
Yeah.
And you're in community, you're together with your community. You're in this audience with everyone experiencing something at the same time. So there's an energy of the audience that you feel as an audience member, and also the artists feel that when they're on stage. So that's, you can never replace the joy of live theater. I think funding is certainly, as you probably can gather, funding is always a challenge. How do we raise money to pay the bills, basically?
Yeah.
And it's been a bit of a challenge. There's been different pathways after the pandemic. Some sources that supported the arts, maybe they shifted their focus a little bit and they don't support the arts as much. Though I will say we do have a wonderful New Jersey State Arts Council here that is very supportive of the arts. We've had our Governor Murphy, very supportive of the arts here. So there are pathways. We have many foundations that are supportive, but there was definitely some shifting, especially in the corporate world. Not as many businesses maybe supporting the arts as they once did. So that certainly is remained. It's always been a challenge. How do we raise enough dollars, the awareness of our needs, and get individuals, foundations, corporations to invest in us, to make a gift, to do what we do, because all of our theaters that we work with, they're all nonprofit. They want to keep their ticket prices down so that as many people can attend and as possible. And they want to do all these very innovative community programs. That's the difference between our regional nonprofit theaters that we work with and say the Broadway theaters, right? So if you think of Broadway, it's all very transactional. You pay your ticket, you got to go, you go home. You don't really have a relationship per se with that particular theater, right? But our regional theaters, our regional professional producing theaters, they build relationships with their communities. There's value added opportunities. There's events and talkbacks, and the theater is really invested in the community in which where they live. They make an impact in their lives and certainly in the economy. If you think about all the restaurants and the transportation systems and all of the vendors that they have to rely on to produce theater, fabric and wood, for costumes and sets. So our theaters are huge economic drivers to our state.
That's so interesting to me. I think it's something that resonated with me was about how everything changed post-COVID. I totally agree that I go to also, I think, interestingly enough, movie theaters never went back to being the same thing. I feel like
That's right.
they reopened, but I am a lot less inclined to go to the movies nowadays. I just don't care as much from a personal level because I always have like the comfort of knowing that it's going to be on a streaming platform eventually, sooner rather than later. I feel like they're even adding these movies a lot faster. It's just, it became, I don't even know when that shift happened in my mind, right? It just kind of like the switch flipped. And I find myself being like this because I remember pre-COVID, it was a world where we were going to all of these movie theaters to see these big blockbuster movies. And it was like an event, and it sort of like changed. And a big change for something as mainstream as Hollywood. I think obviously the effect would be probably even bigger for something like theater, which I think is a little bit more of an acquired taste. I don't think everybody is into watching people on theaters. I feel like with TV, a lot of people tend to prefer that. So I imagine it would have probably been a bigger effect on you guys.
Yeah, I think the theater, I think you're more inclined to go to the theater if you were introduced to the theater when you were young, when it's part of growing up. And I think that's why our theaters do so much work with young people. They do a lot of work in the schools because you want to instill it in people. I also think people go to theater and have a really good experience. Hopefully they'll think about, oh, I'd like to do that again. Because there is nothing like a live performance. But definitely a lot of theater goers, are interested because they were exposed to it when they were young, through their parents, through their schooling, which is really important. And what I love to see is there's such incredible young, talented people out there today that are loving the theater, that want a career in the theater. We actually have an incredible program called the Career Accelerator Program, which allows young people, emerging leaders of color, different generations, either they're just finishing up college or they just graduated, and we're giving them a paid fellowship where for 6 months, working with 2 of our theaters, we kind of little matchmaking. And they also spend a couple of months with the Theater Alliance staff. So at the end of the 6 months, they really have some good understanding and have been able to provide a contribution, gain some skill sets, whether it's in the area of marketing at a theater, maybe they're helping production, maybe they're interested in development and fundraising, whatever it might be, they're building these skill sets so that they can actually, hopefully, they're building their network through these fellowships. So we love this program. We've had it for a few years now. These young people are amazing, so smart, so dedicated. And we're really happy to say that several of them, as a result of these fellowships, they've landed employment, either at one of our theaters or another arts organization. So it's really great to see that this program is basically a bit of a training ground, if you will, building networks. And we all know so much is about the networking, but we're really happy to see that there is this new generation of leaders that are going to be coming into our theater and our arts field.
I also think that definitely newer generations, I feel like they're a lot more inclined to learn about art and involve themselves in art. I don't know if that's just my impression. I feel like I see the younger people nowadays being a lot more willing to involve themselves in this than before. I'm not a sociologist, so like if anybody watching this is welcome to tell me about like the social implications of this, please do so in the comments. But I genuinely have seen a lot more positive feedback towards it. When I was growing up in school, being into something as theater or things like, I guess just anything that wasn't sports was considered nerdy, not cool. Like you were just not part of like the cool kids. You were not. And I think that really sort of created this unplanted seed in a lot of people to reject it, even if they genuinely had interest in it. I've always liked the theater. Like I've genuinely always liked it. Every time we had like any kind of involvement with theater stuff, I would really enjoy doing it. But I did feel like there were a lot of my classmates, and I guess like to a degree myself, because I think when you're young, you don't like really internalize that, where we had sort of learned that if you were not like fitting into these molds, you know, like you were kind of left behind. And I feel like with younger generations, that's changing a little bit. Like I don't see that happening as much with younger people. I think self-expression is a lot more embraced. And therefore, people being into different things that are not necessarily just going to be basketball, right? Which is great if you're into it, right? Are seeing that flourishment. And I feel like investing in those people is really important. And hopefully they're going to be able to carry that legacy on in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have, so many of our theaters have these incredible programs for young people, and they turn people away. They have summer, camps. Paper Mill Playhouse has this Rising Star Awards, which actually recognizes excellence in high school musicals. And it's like really, competitive. People really look, these young people really are extremely talented and really take these opportunities, seriously. So I do see a lot of interest in young people, and that gives us, of course, hope that work in the arts, that they, you're seeing new generations take an interest in and wanting to get involved and even make it, part of their, a career choice, which of course, we love. And we also want to make sure that theater is available for everyone. New Jersey is one of the nation's leading arts communities in terms of making the arts accessible to people with disabilities. So we do a lot of work in this area. We have a program called the Cultural Access Network Project. So we've been partnering with our State Arts Council for over 30 years on this project to really make sure that museums and theaters and all arts organizations are accessible to people with disabilities. And New Jersey has really taken a lead here. Our Arts Council has been so great in partnering with us on this project. And the reason we started this project at the theater, even though this project benefits all of the entire arts community, is because, early on, theaters were really taking the lead in terms of accessibility, more so than some of the other artistic disciplines. So that's why it started at the Theater Alliance and remains at the Theater Alliance today. Plus, I have a very personal commitment to this work, because if you think about it, we take so much in our lives for granted, right?
Yeah.
And if something was to happen, even if I got like a temporary disability, right? Like I broke my leg, or as I get older, I lose my hearing, whatever it might be. And then you tell me, oh, John, sorry, you can't come to the theater any longer because we can't accommodate you. I mean, that would be a devastating thing we should all have access to theater, access to the arts, whether we're an audience member, whether we're an artist, we need full equal access. And so we've been through workshops and some mini grant initiatives, resources on our website. We really have really strengthened the arts community here in New Jersey to be accessible. And we're very proud of that work and our partnership with our Arts Council.
I think that's really amazing. It's a great Note 10 podcast on, and I think, guys, if anybody from New Jersey is listening or watching and would like to join a theater, take an interest in theater, please do take a look at the New Jersey Theater Alliance. I will be adding the links to the description, but I also want to give you the space, John, to tell people where they can come and find you or talk to you if anybody here would like to know more.
Sure. Well, it's our website is njtheateralliance.org, and we spell theater with an R-E. So it's NJ Theater Alliance, all one word, heartfelt.org. And, take a look through the website. You'll see our incredible theater community is all there. We have this incredible marketing campaign called Explore Professional Theater Close to Home. So you'll probably find us on Facebook and Google Ads. We're constantly promoting the great work of our theaters. Take a chance and explore. We have such a diverse theater community with amazing work from musicals and classics and theater for young people and Shakespeare, new plays. So many of our theaters develop their new plays, so take advantage of that and just explore. And if you want to contact us, please do. You'll see myself and the rest of my colleagues on the website. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to get interested in the theater or you have a question about one of our theaters, certainly don't ever hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Yeah. And I added all of these links to the description. Thank you so much, John, for being on the podcast today. Guys, listen, subscribe, follow us, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
You've been listening to Unified Purpose, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.